this, your 427 Ford stroker. Ran perfect. Let's start it up. Starts right up for you. Okay, Paul Saunders, your 427 Ford stroker engine for your 70 Mustang. Ran perfect. You got the complete StyleTrak pulley kit on here. This is a one-wire hookup alternator right here. There's a stud and a nut. You're going to hook that up to a 10-gauge wire right to that stud and nut on your alternator and hook it directly to the positive terminal on the battery. It's a one-wire hookup. Power steering pump is going to use a remote reservoir power steering pump, so make sure you get the lines hooked up. I will supply the fitting for you. I'll thread that in there after the test here. I know you requested that. I'll put the proper AN6 fitting into the pressure side. We're just running it in a closed loop system with fluid in. I'm going to be removing this line, but make sure you get the power steering reservoir hooked up and all the lines and have that all set. If you run this engine without the fluid in there, you're going to burn the pump out, so definitely get that hooked up. The timing cover and water pump on this StyleTrak pulley kit is based off the 1994 to 95 5-liter Mustang. It runs in a reverse rotation direction, the water pump, which means you have to run an electric fan on the inside of your radiator to cool this engine. You got to have air pulling through the radiator to cool it. I already installed a 180-degree Fahrenheit thermostat already in there. That's already been installed. If you have a coolant temperature switch on your dash, you can hook it right on the top of the thermostat housing. The coolant temperature switch right here below the ignition coil, that's the one used for the atomic EFI fuel injection. So you want to leave that right where we have it. The AC compressor, I'll also supply the AC compressor fitting lines coming off the compressor. Before you hook up the black wire on the AC compressor, before you activate the AC compressor clutch with 12 volts power, make sure you have R134 refrigerant in the lines and all that hooked up. The Edelbrock E205 aluminum cylinder heads are installed on there. You got the 427 block, forged pistons, roller camshaft, comp cams, roller rocker arms, Edelbrock heads. Got the Edelbrock Endure Shine intake, air gap intake there. The MSD distributor. The distributor is all dialed in. We have the ignition timing already set with my timing light. Please do not change the ignition timing. It has already been set. I have the proper centrifugal advance springs already installed in there. We know the exact ones to use on these 427s to get the most power out of them, so please leave that set up in there. The MSD coils right here. All you have to do in your part is you have to supply one wire going to the positive terminal of the ignition coil that has 12 volts of power going to it when you turn the ignition key on and off. Right here there's a green wire. I have it marked tachometer hookup. If you're running a tachometer in that 70 Mustang, this is where you can hook your tachometer wire, right to the green wire right here. That's for the tach signal, okay? So definitely hook that up. There's a orange wire coming off the harness off the Atomic EFI. It says AC input, orange wire. I believe your MSD system. You hook up the AC wire into that, and that'll kick up the idle when the AC goes on. So that's the wire. I have that also tagged. I put a throttle return spring on there for you. The throttle cable ball. I ran your engine with your Atomic EFI. Your computer is already built into the Atomic EFI. The handheld system, I already have the settings all set for this 427. I set the idle around 1050 RPMs. That's where this engine runs, idles best with this cam in there. Cold and hot. Probably started your engine 20 times over the course of an hour. And that's where we set all of the manual trans cars around 1050. So that's where I would leave it. This is the idle screws. This is the primary idle screw and then the secondary flap idle screws. These are, you do not need to turn these hardly at all. If you do need to fine tune your idle, these are the screws, and you have to, if you turn it just slightly, that one and the rear one, you have to do them in sync, both of them just a little. If you're going to turn it up or down, that's where you do it, but you don't want to turn them much because they're very sensitive on the idle screws because it's fuel injection. And what you would do is you go to your settings on the initial setting, and there's a idle setting. You have to set your idle where you want it, and then you just fine tune it after the engine's in the car. But I already have it set at 1050. I'd recommend leave it right where we have it. You should be fine. In the back of the Atomic EFI, I have a fitting on here with a bypass cap. If you have power brake booster hose, the vacuum line, you can hook right up to that fitting. Also on the rear intake port, you could put a fitting right there on the rear intake runner. That's a 3/8 pipe plug that will be in there. You could put a fitting, and that's full manifold vacuum. Any other vacuum accessory, the back there's a little 1/8" pipe plug. You could remove that and put a fitting in there. That's also full manifold vacuum if you need a vacuum source. You paint the engine with the paint that you sent us. Your oil pan, it's on there, the one that you sent us that you painted, so everything turned out nice. I put the special rubber washers on the oil pan as you requested. The oil sticking tube is right here. This engine will arrive with about 8.5 quarts of 10W30 oil in it already full. After 500 miles, you should change your oil filter. After that, every 3,000 miles. The oil pressure switch will go right here. You want to use Teflon tape on the oil pressure switch when you install that. I already ran an extension for you to make it nice and easy, the installation. I also put an inline gas filter right here with an AN6 fitting with a 3/8 barb fitting. So you want to use a nice heavy duty rubber fuel line, go into that fitting. This is fuel injection, so you have high pressure. Make sure you use high pressure rubber line going to the barbed fitting right there. You do not need to use a fuel return with this system. I already have it set up in your kit. It comes with the inline fuel pump. You're just going to hook up your fuel line right up to that. You do not need a fuel return with the Atomic EFI. On your headers, when you install the headers on the car, the header bolts, you want to make sure you use number 271 Loctite thread compound on the bolts. That'll prevent them from ever loosening up, and then you won't have any exhaust leak, okay? You want to make sure you put a ground strap cable from the engine block right here, right to the frame. Your engine is sitting on rubber mounts and rubber trans mount, so it's the only way to ground the engine is to put a separate copper ground strap cable right from the engine block right to the frame. Got to have a good clean source. I already scraped the paint off where that bolt is, so you'll have a good connection for a ground. So I recommend get a 4-gauge like battery cable, ground strap cable with 2 eyelets on each end, and then mount that from right here, the block, right to the frame, and then you'll have all your electronics will work properly. The balancer and the flywheel, it's a 28-ounce balance 427 here. You will have to remove the flywheel because the starter mid plate, the index mid plate that goes behind the flywheel, will have to be installed. You'll have to remove the flywheel, put the starter index mid plate on there. When you go to put the flywheel back on, torque the bolts to 75 foot-pounds. I already put the pilot bushing in there. You got the Ford Racing billet steel 28-ounce 157 tooth flywheel. I'm also going to supply you with the high torque starter, so that will come with it also. When you get the engine in that 70 Mustang, maybe send us some pictures, a video, email us pictures, write us a letter. We'd love to put your car on our satisfied customer list with the rest of our customers. Alright, Paul, I'll start it up one more time and we'll get it out to you. Thanks for your business. Alright, you're all set, Paul. Thanks again. Appreciate it.